Women's History Month is the time where we celebrate the tremendous contributions that women all over the world have made. And in today's episode, we're bringing you an interview with one woman who has changed history. Her name is Sara Blakely, and Tony had the pleasure of speaking with her at his recent Business Mastery event in Palm Beach. She's the founder of shapewear company SPANX, and in 2012, at just 41 years old, she became the first female in the world to become a billionaire on her own without the help of an inheritance or a spouse. You've probably heard a lot about Sara's story because it's an incredible story. She went from failing the LSAT to being a greeter at Disney World to selling fax machines door to door to turning $5,000 of her own savings into a billion-dollar empire. But what you may not have heard before is everything in between, the exact steps she took to get her business off the ground, how she's overcome negative self-talk and limiting beliefs by doing the deep emotional work that many people unfortunately neglect, and how honoring both her feminine and masculine energies and finding the balance between them has been a key to her success. And beyond her extraordinary accomplishments, Sara is an extraordinary person. She's authentic. She isn't afraid to fail, to embarrass herself, or to be vulnerable. She's the first one to admit that she had no idea what she was doing when she started SPANX, but instead she had an insatiable determination to improve the way that women feel in their clothes. And most importantly, she's grateful. She hasn't lost sight that she was born in the right country at the right time, and the fact that there are millions of women around the world who are not dealt the same deck of cards upon their birth. And because of that, she invests heavily in women through her foundation and through the Giving Pledge, a commitment by the world's wealthiest individuals and families to dedicate the majority of their wealth to giving. Sara says this in her pledge: "I pledge to invest in women because I believe it offers one of the greatest returns on investment. While many of the world's natural resources are being depleted, one is waiting to be unleashed: women." Here's Tony and Sara.
Listen, you are a legend, and you're one of the most beautiful, humble human beings. You have such a beautiful heart. We got the chance to meet your husband, and we understand you're both forces of nature. Mother of four. But let's start back with the journey, because not everybody knows how this all came about. And I know everybody knows, you started with $5,000, Disney greeter. You were selling fax machines, as I understand, as well.
Yeah.
How do you do that to build SPANX? Tell us a little of the story. And also, if you would, I heard you said that it actually may have started when you were 16. I'm curious about that.
Yeah, I will. But you call me a legend. I got to say, I've been listening to Tony Robbins for decades. Like decades. So this is like so amazing to be sitting here. You've been in my car forever.
Thank you.
Yeah, when it was cassette tapes,
Yes.
and then I went to DVD, and I've been through the whole journey with you. Now I stream you.
That's great. Thank you. I'm touched. We actually met the first time. Warren Buffett is one of your biggest fans. Remember we were on the Today Show,
Yes.
really briefly, and then Warren Buffett we're talking backstage, and he goes, "This is why America is great." Sara is an example of the greatness of America. Somebody could start from anything and build something. It changes, right? So tell us a little bit of how this came about, if you would.
Okay, so wow. My journey to becoming an entrepreneur, a lot of people talk about the soundbite in the media for 20 years has been Sara cut the feet out of her pantyhose and then SPANX is here. But it always starts way before that moment.
Yes.
And a little bit about my background is I grew up wanting to be a lawyer. Okay, my father was a trial attorney, and I used to beg him to get out of school to watch his closing arguments when I was growing up. And I'm a really bad test taker, and I basically bombed the LSAT. Like, not once, but twice.
Wow.
And so I had thought my whole life, I debated in high school, I debated in college. My major was legal communications, and then I literally bombed the LSAT. And at that point in time, I was devastated. And then I did the next logical thing. When I realized I wasn't going to be able to go to law school, I drove to Disney World and tried out to be goofy. Logically, right? But you have to be 5'8" in order to be goofy, and I'm only 5'6", so I am the perfect height of a chipmunk. I worked at Disney World for 3 months, and that didn't feel like my life calling. So I then...
Fortunately.
And then I got a job selling fax machines door to door. And I did that for 7 years. It was the only job, basically, other than Disney, that I really ever had until I started SPANX. And cold calling is tough. Okay, I did it for 7 years, 100% cold calling, no leads,
Wow.
4 zip codes in Clearwater, Florida, selling fax machines. And one particular day, yeah, for all you cold callers, I bow to you. I mean, it's
Yes, I agree.
that is really, really, really good life training. One particular day, I just was so upset. I pulled off the side of the road, and I literally said, I'm in the wrong movie. Like, call the director, call the writer, cut, this is not my life. And I went home that night to my apartment, and I wrote down in my journal, what are you good at, Sarah? What are you good at? I made a weaknesses and a strengths column. And in the strength column, I wrote sales. It's like, I know I'm good at sales. Why am I good at sales? Okay, I'm good at sales because I really like offering something to someone that they need or that might help them or might improve their life. And so in that moment, I wrote down in my journal, I'm going to invent something that I can sell to millions of people that will make them feel
How awesome is that? That's beautiful.
Yeah.
So you made the decision.
I made the decision and I wrote it down because I was like,
And you didn't know what it was yet.
no idea.
You just decided what we talk about this week, guys. Decide the outcome. You don't know the why. You know the why. You don't know the how. Right? The tyranny of how. She's exactly what she did.
Exactly. I knew nothing except for that I was good at sales and I didn't want to sell someone else's product. I thought that would be the ultimate if I could just come up with my own product and sell. Wouldn't that be amazing? And if it could help people or make them feel good, that would be even better. So I wrote that in my journal, and then I had no idea what it was going to be, Tony, but I looked up and I said out loud, universe, please give me the idea. Wow. And I was very specific. I asked for it and I said, if you give me the idea, I will not squander it. And for 2 years later, I was still selling fax machines.
Wow.
I cut the feed out of control top pantyhose one night to wear under my white pants to go to a party in Atlanta where I was living at the time. And I came home that night and I was like, this might be my idea. Like it helped, it smoothed things out. It was a better undergarment than what I could find. And because I had set that intention 2 years prior, I think that is the main reason why I'm sitting on this couch and not the other millions of women who had been cutting the feet out of their pantyhose to solve an undergarment issue. Because women come up to me all the time and they're like, I thought of that. I did that at home too to solve that problem. But why didn't I create SPANX? And I don't usually have the time to tell them that I've been working on manifesting and visualization and setting intentions for so long.
Yes.
That, anyway, so that's kind of what brought me to that moment. But I was really searching and wanting that. I wanted a different life for myself.
It's so beautiful because so many people have ideas, and ideas are a dime a dozen. As you said, I always talk to people, it's like, it's not even the knowledge. Knowledge isn't power. It's execution that trumps knowledge every day. So you got yourself to do that. What, first of all, how did when you were 16, how did that relate? Am I missing the timeline?
No, so that's good. So I like to say that SPANX really started when I was 16 years old because two things happened that were really sort of very difficult for me. One is I was riding bikes with one of my really close friends, and she was run over and killed by a car in front of me. And then very shortly after that, my parents separated and my dad left home. And when my dad left home, he walked into my bedroom and he said, sweetie, I wish I was your age when I discovered this instead of the age of 40. And he handed me Wayne Dyer's cassette tape series, How to Be a No-Limit Person.
How to be a what person?
How to be a no-limit person.
No-limit person, wow.
And, I think with every tragedy or every difficult obstacle, there's always a hidden blessing. There just always is. And for me, I was 16. I think most 16-year-olds would have chucked that in the bottom of my closet and been like, But because I was hurting so badly, I was open and I was ready and I was needing something. So I put the cassette tapes in and I started listening to them so much that I memorized all 12 tapes front and back.
Wow.
And I started crying in my bedroom and I thought, I have just spent 16 years in school being taught what to think, but nobody has ever taught me how to think.
Yes.
And I had this epiphany of, wait, I can control the way that I think. I might be able to work on my mindset in a way that when something happens to me, I can think about it in a way that's either going to propel me forward or hold me back. Like, that's my choice. So then I became a lifelong student of it because it wasn't taught in school. And that's what led me to you and Brian Tracy and Zig Ziglar. I mean, anybody I could get my hands on. And I was selling fax machines, so I was in my car for 7 years, basically. And
Wow.
I literally took, like, all your courses. I mean, I'm like, you know, so that was really helpful. It was actually funny because in high school, no one ever wanted to be stuck in my car, especially after a party, because they're like, she's gonna make you listen to that stuff. And then Tony, like, fast forward, I think 15, 20 years, I end up on the cover of Forbes, and all the people from my high school texted me, and they were like, damn, should have listened to that shit.
I got several things flashing through my head at once, but one's popping in. I want to hear, I know your father from what I've read, and I think the time we talked, the very first time, one of the things that came up, I forgot the question I asked you, but you mentioned that your father trained you to deal with failure, like to go out and try to fail, and rewarded for you. I think you said at the dinner table, if I remember right, you said that he would ask you what you failed at. I want to hear about that, but something popped in my head as you're doing that. You know, I was also driven similar to you in different ways, listening and so forth. But I noticed that for your husband, death is a coach. Like that, like there's a timeline here.
Yeah.
And I just heard death being an instrument for you, not only death of your friend, but also kind of the death of a certain life, a way you had life.
Yeah.
Is that a driving force? I know it has been for me unconsciously to squeeze every moment out of this life because you never know when you're going to go. I listened to Jesse talk about that. How much does that play a role with you? I'm just curious. Or did it play a role to initiate you?
I think it plays a really big role in my life. I like to embrace my own mortality. I like to think about it. It doesn't really scare me. It's just something that I think about often.
Yes.
And
in what way?
It fuels me, like that this is temporary, that I have one shot at life, that this is not a dress rehearsal. And so it also puts things in perspective, you know, for me. If I get really scared, I'm like, I'm going to be dead one day. Like, no one's really going to even, like, it just humanizes and makes things feel not as significant.
That's beautiful. You face it rather than let some people keep it behind them.
Right.
But you've used it for urgency.
I did. And I mean, I think at 16, a lot of us go through this natural kind of, hopefully, you know, facing our own mortality. If you go through the natural progression, maybe in your 50s, 60s, you might lose a parent, or maybe you've lost a grandparent before that. That feels a little more like on plan.
Yes.
But when you're 16 years old and you're talking to your friend about high school stuff, and then the next minute she's run over by a car, that was intense.
Yes.
And it really put a mirror up of like, whoa, wait, this is really now, and that's all you have is this moment.
That sense of urgency, that sense of hunger that doesn't go away, is something that I found is the most common denominator of the most successful people I've ever known. Intelligence, I love wickedly intelligent people. You're obviously wickedly smart, and so is your husband, but there are a lot of people wickedly smart that never maximize because they don't have that sense of urgency or a sense of a purpose or a meaning larger than themselves.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about, because I also work door-to-door sales. I didn't know that about you. Tell me what you got out of door-to-door sales that helped you to succeed in business, if something did. Like, what were some of the distinctions or experiences that helped to make you successful as a business person and as an entrepreneur?
Whoa. Well, first of all, it's super humbling.
Yes.
It's really intense. Like I said, I did it for 7 years in a company. I was in an office equipment company where most people, you know, kind of rotated out every 4 to 6 months.
Yeah.
And I think the things that it taught me the importance of differentiating myself. It taught me about what's in it for me. We'd talk about it, WIIFM, that when you get a moment with someone, they're looking for the what's in it for them. And I learned I need to deliver that in my message very quickly or I lose them.
Yes.
You know? So it wasn't like, hey, I'm selling a fax machine. It was like, hey, I really believe I can improve your life and improve the quality of what you're doing because a business just like yours, you know, I made it about them.
Yes.
And as soon as you can give them the benefit, do it. I used humor and the importance of humor.
And you continue to do that as part of your marketing.
Yeah, it's just not taking myself too seriously and being vulnerable. I think when you're vulnerable, oftentimes life will surprise you and people will be much kinder to you and much more willing to give you a few moments. But a lot of people think of vulnerability as weakness, and I don't.
I agree with you 100%.
I think it's a big strength.
Yeah.
So sometimes I would walk in a door and be like, you know, okay, I just messed up. Can I redo that? You know, and I'd walk out and come back in, and they'd be like, "What's going on with this girl?" You know. But I was always kind of calling out my own, like, I'm really nervous right now, or you know,
authentic. This
is my 15th call, and it's really hot outside, and you know, do you mind if I get a sip of water? And you know, things like that would help open the door. So, and then when you're doing this really intense selling, all day, every day, cold, you learn that there's about 4 different personality types that you're selling to.
What are they?
And one is always going to click with you because it's your personality type. But if you want to improve your closing ratio, you got to kind of figure out the other 3 types. And they're called lots of different things. When I was in sales and really training it also, we called them socializers, relators, directors, and thinkers.
Yes.
And like, for example, I'm more of a socializer director, and selling to a thinker was my hardest sale, because thinkers want every piece of data and information, whether they're going to use it or not. And I'm like, this is a waste of time, you know? And I kept losing sales to thinkers. And then finally I was like, I gotta talk to them the way they want to be talked to.
Yes.
So here's every detail, and here it is. And, you know, instead of projecting my style that I liked on them.
Yes. Many of you know the DISC model. You've used the DISC model. The S and the C would be more the thinker, right? The director would be the D. The I would be that social person. So you can translate many of you based on something you already understand. But the inability to adapt makes people fail. And so you learned, you kept adapting. 7 years of it. Tell me about the role your father has played in your life. You told us one of the most important ones, how he got you to realize you could control and direct your own thinking. But let's talk about the failure thing you shared with me. Is that accurate? Is my memory accurate?
Yes, that is accurate. My dad, growing up, would actually encourage me to fail. So I would come home from school, and he would say to my brother and me, so what'd you guys fail at this week? And if I didn't have something, he would actually be disappointed. So, you know, it flipped the whole model on its head, and I would come home from school, and I can remember I'd be like, Dad, I tried out for this, and I was horrible. And he'd be like, way to go, and he'd high-five me. And I didn't realize it at the time, but he was just changing my definition of failure.
Yes.
My definition of failure became not about the outcome, but about not trying. And so for me, going through life, my only failures are when I didn't try it because I was scared. And my dad even took it a step further. He would ask us what we got, what the benefit or what positive came from it.
Oh, that's great.
So we'd be at the dinner table, and I'd be like, you know, I failed at that. I tried out for cheerleading, and I was horrible. Or I had tried for chorus. I couldn't sing at all. But then he'd always go, well, what positive came from it? And it trained our brains also to find that. And then it became like, of course I want to try these things, because you're not so focused on the outcome. I met my best friend in cheerleading tryouts. Had I not done that, you know, so you see these moments of that, what you get out of it too, that was really cool.
How incredible for all of us as a parent to be able to deliver that. I've shared with some of you the greatest basketball coach of all time from UCLA, John Wooden. When I interviewed him and asked him, you know, what was the best team that you had? He won 10 out of 12 national championships, and they were all new players. And if you know basketball history, almost everybody know the best team. It was Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, a group of people, and he didn't name that team. And he named a team I'd never heard of, and I said, why were they the best? He said, because they maximized their potential. Wow. He said, the other guys had more talent. And he also teaches players. He said, I didn't want to teach them to play the game. I wanted them to play great human beings. And so his goal was, he said, you never know the score. You never know whether you won or lost by the score. Because sometimes you'll get lucky. Sometimes the ball will drop for you, or you'll get a good call. Something go your way, and you'll have a higher score, but you didn't really win. And sometimes somebody else has a higher score, they got lucky, or they got a bad call against you. He said, the only way you know you won is you left everything on that floor every moment you were there.
Yeah.
You gave your all. He said, then you know whether you won or lost, and you're in control of that. And your father taught you to come up with meanings in such a beautiful way. What an amazing shape. Is he still alive today?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, he must be so proud of you.
He is. It's really cool. He's very proud of me.
That's awesome. Well, we honor your dad.
Yeah, and my mom. My mom was amazing.
Tell us about your mom.
My mom is an artist. She was a stay-at-home mother. She's very shy. She's very, just very creative. And it was an interesting balance, the two of them. You know, I had like a trial attorney that was a litigator that I basically was on the witness stand since birth, you know. I had to learn to be quick on my feet, you know. I did. And then my mom was just this most unbelievable nurturer.
Wow.
Like just, you know, she was the like warm blanket through the whole thing, like who I could lean on at any moment that was there. But, you know, I want to talk briefly about failure a little bit more, because you talk about it so much in all the years that I've been listening to you too. But when I like to think about, because you mentioned this, that it's the number one fear is fear of failure.
Yes.
And so I like to take things a step further. I'm always like, why, till I get to the very last why I can get, because that's really where the truth always is. Yes. And so why is as human beings, the biggest fear failure? Well, it's because we don't want to be embarrassed, right? So it's really ultimately fear of embarrassment, which then led me to fear of what other people think of me is the real root of the issue. So that is where I spend a lot of time working myself too. I've been a student of that for since I'm 16. I've been working on not caring what other people think about me. And it took me a minute, but I realized that not caring what other people think about me doesn't have to mean I don't care about them, which is a big, important thing to recognize. But, and I will practice embarrassing myself, Tony. I intentionally embarrass myself.
In what way?
I mean, I'll randomly just start singing in an elevator. And it's super embarrassing and everyone looks at me like I'm crazy, or, if I notice, I will feel if it's been too long since I've been really mortally embarrassed, and then I will do it, because if you're seeking it, it loses its power over you, then all of a sudden it's like, well, being embarrassed is the goal. And what I also realized by being embarrassed over and over again, it makes a great story. I mean, a lot of people will get embarrassed, and then the worst thing to do is be like, I hope no one saw that. I hope, I never want to talk about that again, or whatever. I'm like, hey guys, you're not going to believe what happened to me. And I realize it's one of the best ways to connect with other humans. So they're gifts. I'm like, every time I'm embarrassed, it's such a gift. What can I do with that?
How important would you say psychology has been in this woman's path? Strong psychology and mindset.
I mean, it's kind of everything, Tony, because I've never taken a business class in my life.
Yes.
I had no contacts in the industry, and I took on billion-dollar companies with $5,000. So I would say mindset's pretty much it.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
But what I'm really touched by is you've not stopped growing, right? Your company hasn't stopped growing over 20 years. You continue to grow. But you keep growing, and she keeps conditioning and training, like the training never stops in her mindset. She could easily say, well, I've done these pieces, I know what to do, but you continue to do it. Plus, what the beautiful thing is, it breaks down barriers, because most people would be intimidated if they think you're some way, and when you can just be natural and open, and you share something you were truly embarrassed by, it certainly opens the door. Tell us a little bit.
Just thought of a really embarrassing moment in my business journey. Can I share it?
Sure, please.
Okay. When I was first starting SPANX, I had, cold called all the department stores and been on some media here, and I decided to go over to the UK and try to launch SPANX there. And I got this moment where I got a chance to be on the BBC, and it's obviously kind of like Europe's CNN, and the guy interviewing me was like, so Sarah, tell us what SPANX can do for women in the UK. And I was like, well, it's all about the fanny. It smooths your fanny. It lifts your fanny. Okay? I had no idea, but apparently fanny means vagina in England.
I made the same mistake.
You did?
I said, get off your fannies, and I got these books.
No way, did you really?
I did.
Oh my God, see, I don't even ever use the word fanny, but I thought it sounded very British, so I was like, it makes your fanny look smooth, and the guy like lost all the color in his face. He was just like, I had to call back my team of 2 in my apartment in Atlanta, and I was like, our international expansion is off to a great start. I just told all of England I'm going to smooth their vaginas.
Give her a hand. Mine happened in Australia the first time.
That is so funny.
Yeah, I was in Australia doing a seminar, and I said, get up off your fannies. And I got these looks like, and finally somebody whispered in my ear what I meant. So
that is hilarious.
Yeah,
get up off your vagina.
Yes, exactly.
That's basically what you said to them. That's hilarious. I've never met anyone else that made that hilarious.
Wow.
Okay.
We share embarrassing moments.
There you go.
So tell us a little bit about how, from the time you come up with the idea, fill in the blanks for us if you don't mind. How did you go? Because again, so many people have a great idea.
Yep.
I understand why, because you declared, you were clear, the sense of urgency, all those things. Yeah. But tell us some of the mechanics. You came up with the idea. Did you know anybody in the industry? Did you start to go try to do a prototype and sell it? Tell us a little bit of the mechanics.
Okay. So I had no idea what to do next. I went on the internet. I started looking up manufacturers that made hosiery-type garments and found them in North Carolina primarily. I started calling them on the phone, and simultaneously I went to Hancock Fabrics and Michael's drugstores and was trying to hand make my own version of the prototype with like paper clips. It was really rough. And at the same time, I was trying to patent it and write my own patent and get that done. And so I was kind of doing all of those, and I was still working during the day. So I worked on SPANX at night and on the weekends for 2 years before quitting my job.
That's beautiful.
And so I mean, every step of the way, I mean, the manufacturers all hung up on me. I ended up taking a week off of work and driving there and going in person because I had learned from cold calling that, in person is a better shot. They still all turned me away, but a gentleman in Charlotte, North Carolina called me 2 weeks later. And he said, quote, "Sarah, I have decided to help make your crazy idea."
Wow. What was that like for you, that moment?
I mean, I couldn't breathe. I was just so excited because all I'd been hearing was no, no, no. And when
How long had you gotten the no's?
on and off for a year,
Wow.
a little over a year. And so when I said to him, why the change of heart? He simply said, "I have 3 daughters." And I went, "Okay." And he goes, "And your enthusiasm and your confidence in this idea that I still don't really understand." I ran past my daughters at dinner and they said, "Dad, that's actually not a bad idea. We have the same issue. You might want to help this girl."
Wow.
And so I did that, and then I went to patent lawyers, and they all quoted me between $5,000 and $10,000 to write the patent. I had $5,000 set aside in my savings from selling fax machines. So I ended up I went to Barnes & Noble and bought a book called Patents and Trademarks and wrote my own patent.
How incredible is that? Give her a hand. That's incredible. That's so awesome.
Thank you. But I got to say, I'm not a lawyer because remember, I bombed the LSAT, so I had no idea how to write the legal part of it. I did the background, the abstract. My mom's an artist. She drew a picture of me standing in the living room in just SPANX, which is actually the image on the patent in the patent office. And so I did all of that, went back to the lawyers, and I said to one of the lawyers, I said, "I've done all the legwork. Will you just write the claims for a discounted price?" And he agreed to do it for $750.
Wow.
And he later admitted to me, he goes, "Sarah, I thought when you first came to me that your idea was so bad that I thought I was being pranked by my friends." He goes, "I thought you'd been sent by Candid Camera," which makes perfect sense because as I was pitching to him how I was going to change the world with my footless pantyhose and pulled him out of my red backpack, he was looking around the room. He was looking for hidden cameras.
Being punked.
Yeah, he thought his friends were punking him. But, he helped me, and then, I made the packaging on my friend's computer every day after work. She had just graduated from art school, and I had a pretty clear vision of how I wanted my package to look really different. Because if you get a chance to be on the shelf and you have no money to advertise, your package needs to do the selling. And so I knew that. I also wanted my package to feel like a gift. The woman was buying herself for so long. Hosiery had been like a commodity we hated buying.
Yes.
It's always like beige, gray, and white, and the same half-naked woman on every package. And I was like, I made mine red. I put cartoon women on there. Everyone told me I wasn't going to be able to sell one pair with cartoon women because you couldn't see the product, but I wanted diversity. And I did 3 very different looking cartoon women on the front of my package. And, I have no idea how to make a package. So right before I was finished with making it to go to market, I was like, well, there might need to be something on here for legal reasons. I don't know. So I went to the store, I went to Bloomingdale's, and I bought 10 different brands, and I laid them all over the floor of my apartment. And if the same thing was on all 10, I was like, must be legal. So I added it.
That's great.
I was like, okay. I added care instructions and, certain things. But I didn't know how it was supposed to be done, which is a big gift.
Yes. Tell us, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, I was just going to say, when you don't know how it's supposed to be done, that means you're going to do it differently. My husband mentioned that, but I really do believe that. But this is why most people don't do it without the expertise, the self-doubt,
Yes.
the talk track.
How did you deal with that?
I'm serious. I've been working on my negative self-talk and my talk track by listening to this positive messaging and being a student of this, that it really helped me because why would I? I mean, I'm someone, I had no idea how any of this was supposed to be done. I still don't. But, so I feel like I wish more people out there that don't know how it's supposed to be done would trust that and do that, because that's where that's what moves life and society forward. That's where change happens. Because if you do it like everybody else, it's not change. It's not innovation.
A quick message from our Business Mastery team. If you run a company, whether it be as a first-time entrepreneur or a seasoned CEO, you face challenges every day. And for many of you, you're doing it alone. For more than 40 years, Tony Robbins has helped business owners like yourself understand how successful your business could be, the level it's at today, and how to close that gap faster and with fewer costly mistakes along the way. And now he would like to underwrite the cost of a free one-to-one business strategy session from one of his top business coaches, $600 value. In this session, you'll learn how Tony's business systems can impact your company. See, what most people don't know is that when Tony acquires or starts a company, he brings in 6 systems that are proven to create monumental growth, up to 300% in the first year alone. He teaches these systems at his business seminar and also offers a program where his experts will come to you to train your entire team. To learn more about his systems, get business owner resources, and to claim your free session, just go to tonyrobbins.com/CEO. That's tonyrobbins.com/CEO. Now let's get back to the interview.
So once you get this man on board who's going to manufacture for you,
Yeah.
and you got your patent, did you go, I know at some point you got to Neiman Marcus and Oprah, but what's kind of the sequence? When did you have your first breakthrough after actually getting somebody to believe in it and get the legal done? Did you go out and call on department stores?
I did. I called on Neiman's.
That was the first place you went?
Yeah.
Wow.
So what this goes to not knowing how it's supposed to be done and how it can work in your favor, but I called Neiman Marcus. I looked him up in the yellow pages, and I called the one in Atlanta where I lived, and I said, "Hi, this is Sarah. You know, I've invented something." And the lady started laughing at me. She goes, "Well, we have a buying office, and it's in Dallas, so you should call there." And I said, "Okay." And I learned from my cold calling days not to leave a message, so I called for, I think it was 3 to 5 days before the hosiery buyer ever picked up. I never left a message. I just kept hanging up, and all day at odd times I'd try her. Finally, she answered, and I just said, "Hi, this is Sara Blakely, and I've invented something that's going to change the way your customers wear clothes and help all your salespeople sell more."
Oh, what a great benefit. Boy, you're training to get your message out immediately.
Yeah.
Right? You had to.
And she was like, "Okay, mail it to me." And I was like, "I can't mail it to you. You know, I have to come in person." And we went back and forth on that. And I said, "Look, you got nothing to lose. You can kick me out after 10 minutes. Just let me fly there." And she said, "If you're willing to fly here, I'll give you 10 minutes.
Wow.
And I got on a plane, and I had my lucky red backpack from college, which literally, it is lucky. And my friends begged me not to take it, Tony. They were like, "Sarah, no. You're going to the Neiman Marcus headquarters. Do not bring that old, dirty red backpack." And they were like, "Buy a Prada bag, return it the next day, like whatever you need to do." And I was like, "No, I got to bring it. It's good luck." So I flew there. I'm sitting with this lady that is perfect. I mean, her like dress matched her pen, matched her shoes, right? And I'm sitting there like with my red backpack from college, an Eastpak, and I had my prototype in a Ziploc bag from my kitchen, and I had a color copy of the packaging. And 5 minutes into my pitch, I was losing her. I mean, I think nonverbals are more important than verbal, and I had learned that in sales. I pay attention to the nonverbal. So, you know, so many times I'd be selling my fax machine, and someone would go, "I love it. It's great, and I'm going to call you tomorrow." And I'd be like, "Oh, God." And I would even say to them, "You know what? You're shaking your head no, but you're telling me yes. That's a little concerning. Like, can you really be honest with me? What's the big issue?" And then they'd be like, "Blah." And then I'd get one last chance to be able. So anyway, her nonverbals were like clear as day. I was like, "Oh, God." So I just randomly, I said, "Diane, will you come to the bathroom with me?" She's like,
talk about breaking her pattern.
She's like, "Excuse me?" I said, "I know it's a little weird, but will you come to the bathroom with me? I'm going to show you my product on and not on." And I went into the stall, and I showed her under white pants without SPANX. And then I put them on, and I came out, and I showed her with SPANX. And she immediately went, "I get it. It's brilliant, and I'm going to try it in 7 stores." And I was like, "Yes!"
Wow, that's awesome. That's awesome. So when they put them into Neiman Marcus, did they take off right away, or did you have to do some of the form of marketing?
Well, they did, but I had a little something to do with that.
Yeah, I bet you did.
Yeah, so she said, "I'm going to try them in 7 stores," which was amazing. And I immediately called everyone I knew in those 7 cities. and I paid them to buy SPANX.
You and Jesse are twin souls. I can see that for sure.
I totally paid people to buy SPANX. I was like, hi, it's Sarah. We sat next to each other in 4th grade. I know I haven't talked to you since, but I created this product called SPANX. I'll mail you a check. Go in, tell the salesperson you've been looking for it for your whole life. And and I literally bought up a lot of my product. And, the Neiman's buyer called me, and she's like, we are selling out. I was like, no kidding. I can't believe it. And then just as I was running out of money, Oprah called, and that was like, I got a chance to be one of Oprah's favorite things, which was
oh my gosh,
amazing. Yeah, it was amazing. And
you were running out of cash.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And so, but I wanted to say something also about the not knowing how it's supposed to be done. So after I got into Neiman's, all of these people in the industry came up to me and they're like, how in the world did you land Neiman's? And I would look at them and I go, I called them. I'm not even kidding. And we would just stare at each other. They'd be like, what do you mean you called them? I'm like, I called them. Why? What do you do? They're like, I go to trade shows, and I've been setting up a booth for the last 6 years, and everyone says it around year 6 or 7, Neiman's comes to your booth. And I was like, I didn't even know there were trade shows. So there's so much
incredible.
to be said. That one example, I think, is so telling about trusting, not knowing how it's supposed to be done.
Yes. So you go on Oprah at that critical time. Obviously, we get a sense of what happened there. But you decided early on, if I remember reading correctly, that you weren't going to do traditional advertising, maybe partially because of economics, but that you were using word of mouth. But also, you really one of the early people using influencers. I mean, now everybody does that now. They think of Instagram and social media, but you didn't have it in those days. Why did you make that choice? And how did you make that choice? What did you decide to do around marketing? What was your philosophy around marketing in those early days? And how does it affect you still today?
So you're right that I made the choice for budget, initially. And then when I saw how effective it was and how authentic it felt,
yes,
then I didn't change it even when I had the budget to do it. So SPANX became a household name and a global brand without ever advertising for the first 16 years of business.
Well, let's have a hand for that. That's incredible. That's incredible.
Yeah. So thank you.